Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Museum Open House. This ongoing series features and highlights many of the outstanding museums and other cultural institutions. The main purpose of most programs is to inform viewers about current and upcoming exhibits, various programs, resources, and other opportunities that are available for the general public. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guests 11 highly accomplished artists: Marjorie Kaye, Nancy Wood, Carolyn Letvin, Carol MacDonald, Agusta Agustsson, Mark Zieff, Deborah Friedman, Jillian Vacarro, Eileen de Rosas, James Varnum, and Martha Heller, all of whom have their artwork featured in the current exhibition entitled Galatea and Friends, which is currently on display at Galatea Fine Art in SoWa until July 27th. This unique display features the work of a Galatea member together with a friend of theirs. During the program, we'll be learning all about Galatea Fine Art, why and how Galatea and Friends came about. We'll go on a behind-the-scenes tour and in the process come to better understand and appreciate the artistry of our guests. Let's start by meeting everyone. Welcome. So delighted you're all able to be here. You know, a few days ago, I had the wonderful opportunity to tour the exhibit, admire the incredible wide range of contributions, eager to hear more and have you inform viewers. But before we jump right to that, I think it would be helpful, Marjorie, if you'd start, please, by sharing just why and how Galatea Fine Art came about, please.
Well, I had run a couple of galleries beforehand, more community-based galleries. And my friend George Shaw and I were exhibiting in the landlord's offices during one of the art walks. So we got a good in with the commercial real estate guy. So when I said, geez, be great to start a gallery. We had thinking about other places, and it was like, why not here? This is where the action is. So I contacted the man, John Kyga was his name, took a look at the spaces, which were all empty at the time. Believe me, SoWa was a completely different place. And George said, oh, you got to take the big space. I'm like, well, maybe I'll take the small space. No, 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 no. You got to take the big space. So I ended up putting a call to artists out and got over 100 responses.
Wow.
And yeah, and began the really fun measure of choosing the people I thought would, vibrate well together for the gallery. Had our first rough opening in September of 2009 before the space was actually built and put together by George Shaw. He designed and built the space. And then we opened officially in November of 2009. And believe me, it exceeded my expectations. It was just really well attended, and the artists were wonderful, and it was great. It was just great to be in SoWa and to be in on the ground floor, or the basement floor, as it were.
That's
Um,
wonderful.
yeah, to get that space going.
Terrific, terrific. Well, if we have time, perhaps we'll hear a little bit more, but to bring us
Sure.
up to date, Carolyn, can you share just a little bit about the current mission, programming, opportunities at Galatea Fine Art, please?
Sure, Jay. Galatea Fine Art is a cooperative gallery, cooperative being the basis of its success. The gallery is a business that's run completely by its members. To do that, we have a group of committees that cover all the jobs that need doing to make the gallery run smoothly. Many hands make for light work, and that's certainly true with our committee structure. Some examples of those committees are marketing, exhibitions, membership, hospitality, facilities, and mentorship. Every month, there are new shows that are hung and exhibited in all 4 galleries that we have within the space. They're featured at the first Friday celebrations that the SoWa Arts and Design District hosts. On those nights, hundreds of people come through the galleries as well as the artist studios that are housed at 450. Our building is 460 Harrison Ave. Galatea itself, like I said, houses 4 separate gallery spaces where individual members have their solo shows and some group shows. As members, we each have a solo show every 2 years. That may not seem like a lot, but it takes about 2 years to build a body of work. Galatea provides a unique opportunity for an artist to show the work of their choice in a pristine gallery space.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for that update. And we want to move on to the current exhibit. And as exhibitions chair, Agusta, can you share how this exhibition came about, Galatea and Friends?
Yes, summer's a funny time in the art world. The focus shifts from the city to the vacation areas. So it's a good time to have sort of less formal shows than we normally would have. And given the fact that we just started a new contract and we have a bunch of new members, it seemed a good time to bring together new and old members in a fun show. What better way to find out about each other than through an exhibit, not just of our artist members, but also their friends? What could be better than to bring together artists on a balmy summer evening to share ideas and inspirations? The exhibit highlights what is best about Galatea, our engaged community of artists.
I know we have a wonderful representation today, but can you give viewers a sense of how many people have contributed to the exhibit?
I think there's 24 artist members and then 25 people contributing in addition to them.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, thank you very much. We'll hear more about you and your partner and your work shortly. Getting back, Marjorie, can you share a little bit about your work and association with Nancy, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nancy I've known for quite a while, and she also made the trek out here to North Adams. And we were both in a show at a new space called the Mixed Media Space, and the curator put our work together on the wall, and there was quite a bit of it, and it was so copacetic that, you know, it was a no-brainer to choose her for this Friends show because our work just, although the materials are different, and I mean, you can see how, you know, how earthbound and it is. So I was just thrilled to be able to get a piece of hers along with mine, and chose one that had the similar, you know, kind of energy, a rotating energy like that. My work is done with gouache on shaped plywood, and it's all radiates from the center, as you can see. In this particular piece, I always think of those smaller areas as the children of the center area.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's all very sequential. It's like intuitive mathematics. I am no mathematician. I think of the world, however, in the division of space, you know, so it's I like to call it intuitive mathematics.
No,
And one color, one shape leads to the next, which leads to the next. And I'm finding as I go along with this series of work that they're really, you know, any shape I make, I can break down in this way. It doesn't have to be these kinds of shapes I'm finding out lately. So they're to me, they're like fractals. They're like the building blocks of everything we see.
Yeah, no, and the colors are exquisite. And
Thank you.
your piece, as well as everybody else, is an example of, wow, wonderful to look at through the images, don't do complete justice at all to viewing the gallery and the exhibit and seeing the pieces in person.
Yeah.
Moving on, Nancy, a few words about your piece, please. Sorceress Mask.
Yep. First, I want to say thank you for inviting us, and thank you to Marjorie for asking me to be a friend in the show. I think of her work as cosmic, and mine as being very earthbound. So I moved out here about 2 years ago, just after Marjorie, to North Adams from Somerville. And it was a deliberate move to be more connected to nature. I grew up in the woods and on the water, and I've been collecting things since I was a kid in the woods. And when I got out here, I immediately started foraging and hiking and collecting pieces again. And I think of myself, I call myself a sculptural weaver. I use traditional basketry materials like reed and other natural fibers, and I use basketry techniques usually. Like this piece has probably the least amount of weaving in it, but I also use upcycled materials like the faux fur that frames one side of the piece. And the centerpiece is a beautiful piece of, it's something called silver birch. And I got it on Mount Greylock on one of my hikes. And that became the central piece. And it took me a while to figure out what to do with it. And the pods that you see in the lower right, the brown pods, I actually foraged those from Kendall Square in Cambridge before I moved. There's some trees there that drop these huge pods. And I worked in Kendall Square in the labs as a scientist before I came out here, and I collected all of those there. So I can get my materials from all over.
Fantastic,
And the Sorcerer
fantastic.
series kind of came about looking at these pieces. They were very mask-like, and they felt like they had this energy of being in nature. And I wanted to bring that from, the woods to out into the world as sculptural pieces.
Terrific. Well, Nancy, given our time, we're gonna move on. And Carolyn, would you please say a word about your association with Carol?
Sure. I've been a member of Galatea since 2016. I joined the gallery because I wanted my art to be seen in the SoWa Arts and Design District. I also wanted to participate in the gallery's running. So I joined the board and am currently president of the board, in addition to being on a number of committees. My work in this show is titled Black Treasures, White Treasures. I'm primarily a painter, but during the pandemic, I took up saori weaving from a master teacher, Mihoko Wakabayashi, whose studio is in Worcester. I'm a realist observational painter, and maybe some of you are familiar with my sheet paintings or my interiors. So the abstract nature of weaving has opened up concepts to me that my painting never allowed. In this weaving, I make a statement on race, that no matter what color we are, no matter how we differ, we all have beauty to offer. It's the differences that are so exciting. My friend Carol MacDonald is a printmaker whose major imagery is based on knitting, a perfect match to pair with my saori weaving.
As we bring up your piece, Carol, a few words about it, please.
Hi, well, thank you so much, Carolyn. I'm so very excited to be part of this exhibition. And I know Carolyn through the board of the Monotype Guild of New England, which we're both on. I live up in Colchester, Vermont, just north of Burlington. I'm a printmaker. I work in silkscreen, linoleum, etching, and monoprinting. In my work, I tug at the threads of our shared humanity and make images that explore issues of community, evolution, and healing. I've been working with knit-based imagery since 2007. The pieces in this show are part of the Shared Space series. They are multicolored silk screens with drawing added into the bottom one. And I often think of knit as fabric that represents community. And in these, the knit image becomes somewhat architectural in nature. In this series, I've been particularly interested in what happens when colors and textures overlap and new color and patterns emerge. And then when I take that a step further to the richness of diversity, it is in the meeting and interchange among people that new energy and ideas show up and enliven our existence. So I feel like Carolyn and my work is a perfect pairing.
Terrific, terrific. Well, we're going to move on. Thank you for that background and insight. Agusta, can you share a little bit about your collaboration with Nancy?
Well, I first heard of Nancy in the 1970s when people started making fabric art in response to feminism. There was a whole wave of women doing fabric art. Fast forward to 2018, and I walked into the Swiss bakery in Alston and for a meeting of Surface Design Association. And there I met Nancy. She was a rep for Surface Design because she's very involved in the fiber community. We began encountering each other on walls in various places. Our work was always hung together, I guess because it was similar in subject matter and in color. So it was the perfect time to show with her. And I got to know her a little better during COVID because SDA met on Zoom. This piece of hers, it's done with several printing methods. Part of it is with linoleum block, and part of it is with gelatin printing. And I use printing in my work too, so we really go together. Yeah, my piece, I'm doing a whole series of things about kelp forests because my son is studying kelp forests in Tasmania. And as part of it, I've been making these large prints on a gelatin plate. And to clean up my plate, I take scrap paper and take off the excess ink. And when I have a whole pile of paper, then I turn those into collages. So I try not to waste anything in my practice.
Terrific, terrific. Well, we're going to move on. We see Nancy's piece here that we've heard a few words about. And want to see, Mark, could you share your collaboration with Deborah, please?
Sure. I met Deborah at the Danforth Museum annual juried exhibition last year. And Debbie is a kindred spirit. She uses graphite and colored pencil to create these wonderful, realistic still lifes, landscapes, and portraits of birds and animals. And she was the first person that came to mind when this opportunity came up to exhibit with a friend at Galatea.
And can you share a little bit about your work that we see here?
Sure. So using colored pencils and toned paper, I create artistically realistic still life drawings of commonplace man-made objects. And I've always been fascinated with older everyday household objects, especially ones that are well-worn, used, and imperfect. And I use my artwork to explore the relationship between the object and a user, both the physical and the emotional connection we have with inanimate objects. And our relationship with clothing is among the most unique, as well as the most complex and the most intimate of all man-made objects. My drawing in this show is entitled Worked Out. It centers around a tattered, frayed, and stained work clothes of a manual laborer or a tradesperson. And the thing that I think is most interesting is the clothes are hung on hooks as they would be found at the end of a long workday. And while the clothes may be dirty and torn, the owner still uses great care to hang the clothes with an intention that reflects both their importance and true value to the owner.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you for sharing. Deborah, some words about your piece here, Basic Trio.
I started doing colored pencil drawings of stones in the summer of 2010. I set a challenge for myself to do 10 drawings interpreting them as subject matter I only completed 8 drawings. Many colored pencil artists will tell you it's an incredibly slow and often tedious medium. But I found a lot of ideas I wanted to pursue further. Basic Trio is the third in a series exploring color theory. The first 2 were Primary Trio and Secondary Trio. I'm fascinated by finding a balance not only within the stone cairns, but also their relationship to each other physically and color-wise. So there's a lot of invention that goes on. It's not as obvious in this piece with these muted colors, but there's a lot of invention color-wise. I'm often told by viewers that my work allows them to reflect and brings them a lot of calm. And as Mark mentioned, I met him in 2024 at the Danforth Museum, and I was thrilled to see another artist using colored pencil and creating powerful images. And I'm just delighted that he invited me to exhibit with him.
Terrific, terrific. Yeah, this is turning out to be a bonus for me, in addition to hearing about everyone's work, hearing about how the collaborations, associations came about is fascinating. Moving on, Jillian, could you share about your collaboration association with Eileen?
Oh, yes. So Eileen and I went to graduate school together, and we've shown in a few shows since then. So not only is she my friend, she's my former colleague, and our works relate not only through color and organic form, they are also emotional responses and give form to something beyond visibility.
Mm. And your piece, a few words about this. I believe you titled it Withering.
Yes. So my practice is rooted in emotional responses to memory and personal history. The piece I'm showing in this exhibition relates to my grandmother, whose home was filled with lace fabrics, floral imagery, and gold-framed objects. You can see the cascading lace flow and embrace the circular hoop-inspired form, referencing traditional feminine craft, as my grandmother was a seamstress. In this work, I reference withering flowers from my own home, echoing the fragility of time passing, along with photographs and intuitive marks.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's move on. Eileen, your piece, Fall, I believe.
Yes. Hi. I just want to say thank you to Jill for inviting me to be part of this show and to all of you and for this moment. It's very fun to be here. As we said, Jill and I met in grad school, and I think my work connects to her work in that idea about things that are unseen. My work is about the emotional connection between nature and spirituality. These 3 pieces are the individual representation of what I think of as a soul. I have 3 children. They can also represent 3 afterbirth, if you would say, something that it could be falling or it could be rising. I look at nature while walking, so these reference things as varied as wild cucumber or like a lobster net. It can be man-made or natural. And the gold color has become really important to me because I grew up Catholic, and there's lots of gold in the Catholic Church and lots of auras around saints and Mary. And so when I'm making this work, which I crochet by hand with wire, I'm thinking a lot about spirituality and how we exist in this world. Yeah. So these are wire crocheted and hung from the ceiling.
Wonderful, wonderful. And just another terrific example, both of yours, of just the wide range of contributions throughout the exhibit. And seeing 2 more here. James, a couple words about your work shortly, but association with Martha.
Sure. Thank you for having us, Jay. Martha and I are neighbors, but we first met through the Newton Art Association. And, back when I was exhibits chair for the association, Martha helped a lot. And she gave me a tour of her laboratory last summer because she works she makes her own pigments out of different flowers that she grows around her house.
Mm.
And we're both, so she's an experimental painter, as am I. I joined Galatea in 2019 because I wanted a different kind of community than was offered here in Newton. And I'm on the board too with Agusta and Carolyn, and I'm happen to be the membership chair. And I love being part of Galatea because it gives me the support and the space to be experimental. So the painting that I put into this show is called Unrevealed, and it's a watercolor triptych on Yupo, and Yupo is a plastic substrate. So when I apply the watercolor, it doesn't get absorbed like in paper. And typically what I do with all my paintings, I cover it with plastic. I put the pigment on, and here it's like just three pigments. Put the plastic on, let it dry, peel it off, and then, in some cases add, marks and lines with ink. For this particular one, I didn't have to do a lot of that because the way the pigments bumped up against each other under the plastic made their own lines, which made a, composition and movement in the piece. Yeah, I have a lot of fun. I love being an experimental, painter. And that's why I chose Martha, because she too does a lot of experimenting in her work.
Terrific. No, I love the playfulness you bring to your artistry. Martha, as we come to the end of the program, enjoy hearing about your piece here, Skyscape.
Thanks, Jay. Thank you very much. And thank you, James, for inviting me to exhibit in Artists and Friends. I have a studio and a gallery in my house, in my home in Newton, and work primarily with textiles. In 2017, I began exhibiting my work. I make art quilts, sculptures, wall hangings, and framed textiles like this one. Skyscape is made with recovered cotton that I colored using a plant in my garden called Persicaria tinctoria, better known as Japanese indigo. It's a green plant. However, if I process the leaves in a certain way, they produce a beautiful blue dye. The blue sky and the puffy clouds here are created by soaking fabric in water containing fermented indigo leaves. I suspend the cloth over the container of dye and leave just the ends of the cloth in the dye. The color is absorbed over several days. It slowly rises into the fabric, naturally creating layers of color on the cloth. And using the natural way colors move is one of the things that James and I share in our work.
Mm.
After the cloth is dry, I cut and arrange the cloth to tell a story. And in this case, I saw sky and clouds.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, unfortunately, we've come to the end of the program. I want to thank you all so much again for being here, sharing some insight about your collaboration association, as well as your art that's on display. Just a sampling of many other contributions at Galatea and Friends, ongoing until July 27th. Definitely encourage viewers and others to make their way there. Continued success with future endeavors. Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.